James Bond vs. John Wick is the mid-season return of Death Battle Season 9. With a matchup that no one saw coming, especially since there are better options for the two, with Jason Bourne for James and Agent 47 for John, this episode didn't have many expectations to fill. But how was it as an actual episode? Well, let's find out. Also, my buddy Lucariboi is making his own video, and he even recorded a reaction video. So, both of those will be in the description. Go check them out. For starters, this analysis is really entertaining. The editing is well done, and the cutaway gag actually made me laugh a bit. Well, actually, it made me scream at Boomstick for clicking the explosive pen over and over again. See the reaction video for that. But it was a pretty funny Chekhov's gun for the end of the episode, even if it was a bit predictable. And by a bit, I mean a lot. It was really predictable. I also really liked how long both characters' analyses were. It gives them more time to flesh out the characters, their stories, and their arsenals when compared to random Marvel Herald number 1458. If I had to pick my favorite, I'd probably say John's. I really liked how they used his epithets like Baba Yaga and the one you call to kill the boogeyman. They also treat John like a sort of unstoppable horror movie monster. That doesn't mean Bond's is bad though. It's also pretty good. I really like them going through Bond's history and bringing up how, despite how suave Bond is, he really is just a broken and tortured man who really likes murder. And also, Boomstick referencing like every single Bond movie through the titles alone is just really good. Overall, analysis was fairly solid. Okay, so the analysis is pretty good, but how was the fight? Well, it starts off pretty janky, especially with James walking up to John and just sliding slowly towards him. Okay, so that's pretty bad, but excluding the jank, I really like the setup. James being on a mission with John being the target makes sense within both universes. Even John acknowledging MI6 later on and questioning what they want to do with him is pretty cool detail and makes it seem more like a proper crossover, kind of like what Iron Bat did. So far, the opening has been pretty good. Yeah, it's animated all janky-like, but the execution is still really well done. But the fight is really where things get good. You can tell that this is where most of the time and effort really went into. It's really well animated, and the stuff they pull off is really freaking cool. John's suplex move on James is probably my favorite bit of the entire first half of the animation. It's not an exact one-to-one of the grapple move he does in the movies, but it's still really cool and kind of reminds me of Snake vs. Sam in a way. I also really like John trying to murder James with the exploding pen, only for the pen to, well, explode. What did you think he was going to do, bake a cake? Also, James's line about him losing count about how many times John clicked the pen, that is hilarious. Just his delivery with, to be honest, even I lost count. That's just comedy gold. This leads into the second half of the fight with James' souped-up Aston Martin. Yeah, as soon as the car gets involved, that's when the fight goes from good to great. Not only do we have a pretty good knife fight between the two, again, like Snake vs. Sam, but with a spinning Aston Martin firing its miniguns, adding a lot more tension to the fight. We even get a cool shot of James through the barrel of John's gun. And to give credit to John, he doesn't go down like a bitch. He still tries to finish off James before James pins John to his car and uses his laser watch to cut down a chandelier, crushing John. Yeah, don't get me wrong, the death is great and all, but I probably would have preferred a more emotional end, sort of similar to Jonathan vs. Tanjiro or Magneto vs. Tetsuo. Especially since now John's dog doesn't have an owner, and that just makes me sad. Oh, and the track didn't end with the classic James Bond theme, so it gets negative points for that. And the post-analysis is also pretty good. Don't really have much to say about it other than end it with the exploding pen joke and with saying the winner is Bond. James Bond. Wonderful touch to a wonderful episode. And if you already couldn't tell, I massively enjoyed this episode. Everything from the fight to the character interactions to the characters themselves, it was a really great way to kick off the second half of Season 9. And I can't wait for the next episode. I am so glad that Black Adam vs. Apocalypse is happening and the Biffweed is getting his most wanted episode. Now we just need Destroyer vs. Iris to make Nemesis happy and we'll be all set. Anyway, that was my review for James Bond vs. John Wick, and I really enjoyed this. If you want to see my live reaction, then the link to that video will be in the description below. It was filmed by my buddy Lucariboi. Go check out his review and channel. Anyway, with that in mind, I will all be seeing you when Black Adam vs. Apocalypse finally hits and it cures world cancer. I meant to say it cures cancer and solves world hunger, and somehow that ended up smushing together. I am so sorry for that.